Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to this year's installment of our first District Advisory Committee meeting with a focus on the LCAP. And we have a very short presentation for you this evening, which is going to be tied to our current LCAP, our plans for next year's LCAP, some data analysis, which is for the most part all good. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the new state template, because this is the second template that we'll be using. So the local control accountability plan is tied to the local control funding formula, which is the new state funding process that we've been living with for the last 3 years. So before we get going, we'd like to have everybody have a chance to introduce themselves. And so we're going to start with Tara Bell, who's going to introduce herself and then pass to her right and then back to her left by pressing the button at the bottom and holding it until the light comes on.
Thank you. My name is Tara Bell. I'm principal at Cuesta Elementary School.
I'm Brian Shum, the vice principal at Mountain House High School.
I'm Cindy Sosa, and I'm a paraprofessional at Lammersville Elementary.
I'm Alvina Kaiser, the CBO of Lammersville School District.
Irene Buzatil, Bethany parent, and the principal of Lammersville Elementary School.
Debbie Wingo, principal at Bethany Elementary.
My name is Kiran Rambhatla, and I'm a parent.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Colin Clements, parent of student at Mountain House High School and board trustee.
I'm Heather Sherburne. I'm the Director of Instruction Assessment and Technology Integration for Lammersville.
I'm Kushvinder Gill, Assistant Superintendent.
Kirk Nicholas, Superintendent.
Jen Lanza, Administrative Assistant to the Assistant Superintendent.
Noelle Balzerini, Executive Assistant, Superintendent's Office.
I did, before we go in, say we added a new piece of data to the data sheet we're going to go over. It's all administrators who know their last name, and we have 95% of our administrators know their last name. Irene, next year we know that you'll get it down. Okay, so a quick recap, and again, we're having a meeting with mostly staff, and we're very excited to have a member of their community here. But just a quick review in case anyone's watching us being streamed home or in the recording, that a transformation to the budget system was made by Governor Brown, local control funding formula. With that came a plan where you had to explain what you were spending the money on, and that was called the Local Control Accountability Plan. We are now in the third year of that, and the state is starting to kind of get a grasp on what it really wants the document to be. Tonight is the first of a series of 3 meetings that we'll be presenting, and tonight we'll have a quick overview of kind of the historical record. I'd like to also acknowledge Danelle Faubert, parent, for coming in tonight. We have two community members now, and we're really appreciative of that. So very quickly, LCAP for 2017. So the history of our planning in the district going back 4 years was that the board adopted in 2014, December of 2014, a strategic plan that was based on a significant community outreach. There was a number of different events held, 2 different surveys, and out of that a report was written that became the plan. And that plan was intended to be a 5-year plan with some specific targeted areas that came from stakeholders, parents, students, school sites, district staff, and that strategic plan was put into place. The basis of that plan shifted as the governor launched local control funding formula. So as we're rolling out the strategic plan, we're being told by the state of California and the Department of Education that we needed to do an LCAP to go with our funding from local control funding formula. So they created a template We infused the strategic plan into the LCAP version 1.0. We submitted it following all the protocols, expectations, and procedures through board approval, and that was the first incarnation. The second year, the template stayed the same, but the feedback shifted. So the first round of feedback on LCAP version 1.0 was extensive. Our oversight in the process is the San Joaquin County Office of Education. And in the first year, we received a document that was 9 pages long in 6-point font. And we made a significant amount of changes. It got, for lack of a better term, it got into the weeds. So I want to acknowledge Dr. Gill for diving into the weeds, pulling all that information out, getting the LCAP 1.0 put together, following all the procedures. In version 2.0, there was a shift at the county in their feedback. We made some amendments and some changes based on data and way we were going in the district during version 2.0. And the county said, you know what, we're not going to give you a 9-page document with 6-point font. We're going to have you simplify it so it's a working document that works better for you. So Dr. Gill took that information. She adjusted the plan. We went through the process all the way to board approval, and that went forward. This year, the state has dropped down a new template. And that new template is actually user-friendly. It's a little more less cumbersome. So Dr. Gill has grabbed that and harnessed it and is now taking all the stuff from version 2.0 and moving it into 3.0. And that is ultimately going to go to the board in June for adoption. So the only other thing that I want to add to this history is when they launched the LCAP, the expectation was it was a 3-year plan. And so you have the formal outreach to all stakeholders and multiple vehicles and venues to gather stakeholder feedback. And then it goes to board approval, and then you just do an annual renewal in July in the subsequent 2 years. With this LCAP version 3.0, what we're being asked to do is that this would be seen as the first year. It's in the new template with the new formatting and the new expectations. And so we're in an annual renewal mode, and we will also be in an annual renewal mode next and the following year. So when we get to, I believe it's 2019, then we would be going back out in a more grand scale stakeholder feedback approach like we did with the strategic plan and LCAP version 1.0 and 2.0. So that's kind of a historical overview. So the strategic plan, the basis of it was 5 areas of focus or focus areas. And we've been running the district essentially under those 5 areas in the manner of saying if we're going to do it, it needs to fall within those 5 or underneath those 5 umbrellas. If we're going to spend money, it needs to fall within those 5 areas to stay focused on what we're trying to accomplish. So those areas are student achievement, district culture and leadership, fiscal strength, parent and community relationships, and 21st century learning and college and career readiness. So what we've done now and what I'm going to present is really the focus projects, initiatives, programs that the district has been working on or is launching this year that will be part of the annual renewal conversation when we bring you the first draft of this year's LCAP at the next meeting. So if you notice that each one of those bullets has a number, 2.0, 3.0, 1.0, that tells you what year of existence we're in to show you that we're trying to stay focused and institutionalize practices so we're not lurching back and forth and we can give things and programs and initiatives enough time to be successful or unsuccessful with proper analysis. So our early college program with Delta College is in its 2nd year. We presently have 70 students or so that are in the program. At full blowout, when we're at Early College 4.0, we'll have approximately 140, 150 kids in that program. We've walking and talking instruction is now a site admin team, district leadership team, and teachers walking and observing classrooms across the district. And it's in its 3rd year of existence, and we continue to refine that practice. We have a new English language arts adoption with English language development components. That's in its first year, and with that is professional development and also coordinator support for teachers, and with all of the things that go with it, from learning how to use it to how all the tools work and the vision behind it. And then we are also working on strategic support, which is helping kids who don't get it the first time, and piloting interventions at one school site with groups of kids that are not getting it, and it's a part of their learning curve in terms of mainstream learning. And then second, the strategic support didn't work. So third, we're piloting a different curriculum to close gaps in skills. So that's in its first year. Second, this is focus area number 2, district culture and achievement. We have a professional growth committee, and we're working with a highly respected consultant, Dr. Ken Feudernick. In there, we're working with a group of teachers, principals, district administrators, and the plan is to develop new observation practices that are consistent across the district, and ultimately a new evaluation system for teachers that is about pro-growth for both teachers and site leaders, but also based on the work of Danielson is the guru behind that. We have a district PLC committee where teachers and district and site administrators solve problems together. It's in its third year, also its third version, and that's a committee that we try to solve problems with, but as we move on, that changes as the district changes and grows. LCAP, we're in version 3.0 with a new template. CASP will be testing for the third time this year. I'd like to remind everybody, in case that you haven't heard it, Lammersville School District is the highest performing school district in San Joaquin County, and we're outperforming our friends across the hill in Livermore as well. We believe that the things we're putting in the LCAP in time will allow us to say hi to our friends in Lafayette and Pleasanton and San Ramon Unified, and have our test scores be equivalent to them. We've got a little ways to go. And then finally, teacher professional development focused in on our first-year teachers, new teacher academy, and today out of a admin forum, a site district leadership team meeting, the idea for a planning for a second-year teacher academy is already in the works. It's a great idea. So we are already planning to provide that assistance to our teachers. In the third area of fiscal strength, we are obviously trying to be a progressive, cutting-edge, technology-based instructional program. We presently have a technology sustainability plan. That is a work in progress. It's a living document, but the thing that stands out in terms of LCAP would be our initiative to be a district-wide one-to-one district by 2018, and presently we are one-to-one in grades 4th through 12th grade. We have Measure L, which is not tied to state funding. It's tied to a bond passed by the community and the citizens of the community. But we are rolling forward with the final phase of building Mountain House High School. We'll be breaking ground in the coming months at our 6th elementary school, Hanson. And we are currently identifying needs across the district in the area of technology, tools for instruction, and safety that we can use Measure L funds to support our program. And finally, we have a district recruitment fair, which will follow up last year's very, very successful recruitment fair in the attempt to bring in the best talent in all of our positions, both classified and certificated, to fill our staff with the kind of people we want working with our kids. The fourth focus area is parent and community relationships, and the lion's share of this work is done through our committees. So before I go through there, I want to point out, since I talked about the recruitment fair, that part of that recruitment fair day will also have a health fair, which will bring information to community members and parents who are interested in and attend. So we have a board subcommittee on facilities, a Gate Art Music subcommittee, committee, a district advisory committee, this one, DLAC, a district English language advisory committee, a grant writing committee, a wellness committee, a safety committee. So all of those committees are intended to gather information, disseminate information from the individuals who attend and anybody who chooses to come and visit. And finally, focus area number 5, which is the 21st Century Learning College and Career Readiness. The focus areas for this LCAP and future LCAPs, we will be launching a GATE program It's going to start one grade because we want to learn as we do and go slow. That's a big operation, GATE programs. So we'll be sometime soon be launching that. That'll be the first year in existence. Our one-to-one expansion will move to the third grade in our fourth year of the LCAP. We have currently offering career pathways at our high school in engineering, biomedical, CCNA, and computer science. And we're also talking about new pathways going into next year. They're being developed. Some are already in existence, but they're not fully blown out. Some of those might fall into the area of business and public safety. And then finally, teacher professional development. We have a blended learning academy, which goes year-round. And we are working very hard to help our teachers and find teachers to be CTE or career technical education credentialed individuals. So with that said, that is an update historically, an update on what we're working now. And all of those initiatives and programs are slated to continue in the LCAP into the future as part of the program we present to our students, but also there will be things added as we go along the way. So with that said, that's the end of my presentation. I will turn this over to Dr. Gill, who will present data and the new template that she's working with. And the one thing you need to know is green is good and red is sometimes bad and sometimes not bad.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, community members. So Dr. Nicholas went through each of the goals and our initiatives within each of the goals. As part of the LCAP process, our goal is to reflect on each of the goals, different initiatives within each of the goals, and also how is our data doing within those initiatives aligned with the 8 state priorities. As we reflect on the goals, then we do the work on the next part of the LCAP, which is the annual update. And based on that, then we develop the future years, which will be 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, and so on. So as you could see in this sheet, and it's right in front of you as well, that for MAP test, which is an assessment our students take 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. So we compare the data throughout the year, but here what you're looking at is the spring data at the end of 2014-15 and at the end of 2015-16. As you could see in reading, our scores actually went up by 1%. Math is one of the areas where our scores went down by 49%. CASP, we're very proud to say that overall, as an entire district, not only with our overall data, which actually went in ELA, went up by 4%, that every single subgroup except African American, every single subgroup went up. Some of them by quite a few percent, as far as 13, 12 different percentages. And this is an area we're going to continue working on. We have did further analysis of our African American population. The percentage of our African American population in Lammersville Unified School District is approximately 7%. What we have noticed is that because the percentage of students is so few, even if 2 or 3 students percent makes a big difference on the actual overall percentage of the students' performance. Same thing in math. Our scores are highest in the county, along with also being 4% up in math as well. As you could see, in math, every single subgroup has improved quite a bit. And with LCAP, we focus on the unduplicated population along with our ethnicities, and those are the students who are foster youth, low income, English language learners, special education students. As you could see, like in ELA, same way in math, all of our students' growth has quite a bit growth in all of these areas. Let me take a moment also to explain to you what AMAO1 and AMAO2 is. AMAO1 is for English language learners who take a test in the beginning of the school years called CELT. It's basically to measure their English proficiency. And when those students take the test, and as you could see, the typical growth target at the state level is 5%. And we did meet the growth target. Our students' growth went from 61% to 66%. Then AMAO2 for less than 5 years and more than 5 years means the students who have been English learners in our district, less than 5 years, that means they have been in our system for less than 5 years, not only our system, in the country, or they have been in our country learning English for more than 5 years. So that is measured by redesignating students based on their grades, based on their CASP scores, and based on their CELT scores. That is one of the areas we're going to continuously working on with our staff to see what can we do to support the students who are EL learners, either with less than 5 years or more than 5 years, to continue to redesignate them. I want to bring your attention to the attendance piece. In the past, we used to calculate our attendance a little differently, partially because we are in an anomaly kind of district, because we grow by several hundred kids every year. Even from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year, growth is huge. As you could see, this year, we grew almost by 90 plus students since August. What we have done here is, you might remember, if you have the last year's data, that last year at 14-15, the way we calculated the attendance, it was 98%. But actually, if you look at the average, because that was done based on the growth, including the growth model. But if we just look at the overall average, how it's typically calculated, our percentage of attendance of students attending schools was 96.12%, went up by about 12.12% as well, so it's 96.24% in 15-16. And then also in goal 1, which is the student achievement, as Dr. Nicholas mentioned earlier, that we want to make sure that we're meeting all of the Williams settlement compliance goals, which is the making sure all of our teachers are 100% credentialed, or they're in the process of getting their credentials, that their paperwork is done, and we're meeting all the criteria and requirements, and then all of our facilities are in good condition, and then finally, all of our students have the required materials they need. We, based on the data we receive from the county, we have always met. We're very proud to say we're always met, and it's always 100% so far, and we're going to continue working on that goal. In goal 2, which is district culture and leadership, the data that is being presented in the LCAP is walking and talking instruction, us administrators, teachers working together about 3 or 4 times a year. We visit different schools as a team, teachers and administrators, and collect some data, but also just visit classrooms to see the instruction happening, student engagement, and also focus on what the students are learning. Are their learning objectives in the classrooms, which we call them standardized and measurable objectives. Again, that is one of the areas we're going to continue working on to even bring the data up. And as you can see, the data that is being presented here from 2014 to 2015-16 is the average of the year. So first one is the average of 2014-15, second one is the average of 2015-16. And we are very proud to say, even though we have increased the number of students have gone up by about 500 students as compared to between 2 years. The reduction in the percentage of students being suspended has gone down. So kudos to all the staff members and administrators and teachers for working proactively with the students on their positive behavior. That is actually a really good sign. As a school district grows bigger, sometimes, the kind of issues, especially bringing a high school in, sometimes the issues do grow. So up until 2014-15, we were one of the few districts in the entire state who have never had an expulsion. But last year we did have a few expulsions, and a very small number. So 0.003% is our expulsion data. Kind of nil, but still we wanted to report that we did have some expulsions at different grade levels last school year. Again, there is a state survey the students take. It's called Healthy Kids Survey. Our nurse, Amy Eislers, actually leads that survey, and she works with these schools to make sure the students have taken the survey. 7th and I believe 7th and 9th or 7th and 10th grade students take their survey. Last year, our data was this is students taking the survey and their results 100% totally. 71% of the students were saying, based on their survey, that they feel safe in the school systems. 15-16 data is 90% of the students are saying they're feeling safe. That actually goes hand in hand with our suspension data. So suspension data going down, healthy kids data, safety data going up. That definitely says that at the school sites, whatever the administrators and teachers are doing and our support staff is doing to provide that safe environment for the students, that is amazing, and we're going to continue working on that. And the next piece of data, number 41, is the data from our 47 seniors last year who graduated in 2015-16, that out of the 47 seniors who graduated, 28% actually successfully completed the UC or CSU entrance courses. Very proud to say that. And that number is going to continue going up because the number of seniors we have are actually a lot more now and going to be a lot more in the future years as well. Goal 3 is physical strength. Some of the data I have already talked about, so one of the data I wanted to make sure is kudos to our superintendent and as well our CBO that our MYP, multi-year projection for our budget, is 100%, and that's our county's approval rate for us. And then also, okay, I already went over the materials. Next piece of data that I want to talk about is the technology in the classrooms. Last year in 2014-15, the year before in 2014-15, our 1-to-1 ratio for the Chromebooks in the classroom was 7 through 12. 15-16, 6 through 12. This year, 16-17, Dr. Nicholas already mentioned, is 4th and 4 through 12th. And that number is going to continue to even the lower grades, that our goal is to continue bringing 1-to-1 to other grades as well. Goal 4, parent and community relationships. Again, our goal is to continue working with the parents, communicating with them in many different ways, personally, newsletters, via meetings at the site level and district level, and EduLink, and through our website. And if there are any other recommendations, we are happy to take other recommendations from community members as well for that. DLAC meeting, our Mrs. Busatil and all of other assistant principals facilitate the DLAC meeting every other month or so. That's our goal, is to continue bringing more parents into our DLAC meetings, and then also DAC meeting and other meetings as well to continue working on that. And then finally, our goal of 21st century learning skills, goal 5. This is where the major focus is on technology and career pathways. As you could see that one of the things that we are very proud of, which is the percentage of students who are receiving 3 or higher GPA. Earlier in the data, which I didn't get a chance to mention, that the percentage of students at high school who are receiving D's and F's. Some of you might remember, very first year of the high school, 34% during the very first semester, 34% of our students had D's and F's. We are very proud to say that at the end of 15-16 school year, only 12% students had D's and F's, which we are going to continue to decrease. In fact, in the fall of 2016-17, 9% students, which has gone down by 3%, even more now. And we're going to continue to bring that number down every semester. That's our goal. And
Dr. Gill, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you repeat that only a little bit slower so I can take notes? What you talked about
Definitely.
on the grades, D's and F's.
Definitely. Sure. So one of our concerns was to make sure our students are passing classes, and when we say pass, we are considering A, B, and C grades. So during very first year of our school, when high school opened, during very first semester, our percentage of D and F grades at the high school was 34%. That was alarming to us. We took a note of it. We offered summer school. We worked very hard. Our staff worked very hard at the high school. And at the end of 14-15 school year, and this is actually in your document as well, at the end of 15-16 school year, that percentage, 14-15 school year, that percentage went to 13%. At the end of 15-16 school year, that percentage went down to 12%. At the end of fall 2016-17 school year, that percentage went down to 9%. So again, we're very proud to say that our students are doing really well. Even that 9%, we are going to continue working to decrease that number. And finally, with the adoption of the curriculum for ELA and also working on the units with math, we are providing ongoing professional development to all staff members, not only teachers, throughout the year, including our CSEA staff members, classified staff members, because that was a request from CSEA that we have had. And we're going to continue working on providing that. Our focus in the future, near future, is going to be to provide more professional development to meet the needs of EL students as well, and small group instruction as well, along with blended learning and use of technology in the classrooms. And finally, just to brag about a little bit about our students, and the number of students who participate in extracurricular activities, which we usually are the top. Again, we're bragging about that, which is a good thing. We're usually at the top of whenever our students compete in Science Olympiad, Math Olympiad, Academic Pentathlon. If not at the state level, definitely at the region level. Lammersville Unified School District is typically first, second places literally in every single thing. So 28% of our students compete in these competitions. One of the principals, Mrs. Wingo, wanted to make sure that she mentioned, and I want to repeat the same sentence, that even though it shows 28%, but some of these students are the same students who are participating in several different competitions and several different activities. So if we count them separately, it will become more like 50, almost 40 to 50%. But this is a pretty good number. And also the students who are taking Project Lead the Way classes in K-8 level went up quite a bit from 21% to 23%. And again, this number is going to continue going up in the future. And in high school. So I want to explain this number because the percentage is going to look like, oh, it went down, but it's still green. The reason it's green because the number of students who are taking the PLT, the CTE classes at the high school have gone up. The reason this is less percentage-wise because in 14-15 years it was based on about 740 kids, and this year, 2015-16. Sorry, let me take it back. In 2014-15, it was based on about 500 kids, and 15-16 was based on about 700 to 800 kids. So even though the percentage went down, but the overall number of students have gone up. And same thing with AP classes. The percentage of students who are taking AP classes is 13%. And as you're going to notice, that in 14-15 school year, we only had one AP test that the students took as compared to 15-16 school year. 8 students took AP tests in 8 different courses. Even though the percentage went based on 77 to 66%, but the number of students who took the test was a lot higher. That's why it's showing as it's not the same percentage because the number of kids who took the test was a lot higher. And the national percentage is 62%, so we are scoring above the national range. Any questions on the data?
Are we on? Oh, you can hear, okay. First, well, I think one is first a comment. So I know that we have to track attendance, and it's important to, we want our kids to be at school. As a parent, I'm a little bit concerned that we put so much emphasis on it with attendance awards at the elementary sites, and by extension, maybe encourage kids who are really sick, maybe should not spread their germs. I have had more notifications of your child's been exposed to pink eye and strep throat and lice, and more than I ever can remember for my older children. So that's just some feedback about that it's important, but maybe where the focus is. And then under the district culture and leadership, we talked about the walking and talking instruction and supporting new teachers and that kind of thing. I know in the community the teacher morale has been an object of discussion, and I'm just wondering if there's any data or feedback as to how teacher morale is overall, or if we measure that or attempt to collect that.
So we don't have any data like a 17% people are abundantly happy and that thing. But what we can do is there was a board workshop in October of 2015, and there were some specific areas of support that were requested by the Teachers Association. I sat down with the president of LTA, and we talked about two different directions. One is addressing the role of an instructional leader, a school site principal, and what's the best practice for providing observation, feedback, and an evaluation where a person feels like they're being supported as opposed to being told you're not good at something. So in partnership with LTA, we formed what is called the Professional Growth Committee. We brought in Dr. Ken Futernick, who is an expert in management labor relationships. He has a published book whose name I can't remember, but you can Google him. And we are working in partnership right now with his guidance to bring in professional development, both for teachers and for principals and district office officials in the area of instructional observation and feedback all the way through the evaluation process, which will be a new one, which is based on personal growth versus the checkbox one we have, which from the teacher's perspective and from the district's perspective, fed some of that concern. So we'll be launching, the board just adopted or approved the spending on that. So I can tell you that there are two phases to this, and the first $39,000 phase, so that's a piece of data, will be going forward in the next month or two with a pilot group of teachers and a newly trained way of doing things. On the other side of it is really it's the communication feedback loop. And so we're going to use Dr. Futernick as well as others to work on the professional learning community part of the district. I'll take responsibility for that committee kind of taking different looks over the last few years because it was serving different purposes. But we feel like we're at a place now where we can use it for what it's intended, which is, if you follow Dr. Dufour, there's 4 questions about what's working and who's learning, and we're going to try to get into problem solving around instruction and materials and things that help people get better. So I don't have data for that. All I can tell you is that committee's being revamped in a way that follows a model that's highly regarded across the country. And then in terms of direct problems being reported from our teaching staff, there's like 3 different vehicles. There's the site-based leadership team, which the principals can speak to that are in the room. But in terms of our HR person and the amount of complaints that are coming to him from the union, or the union getting complaints from teachers, informally, we've been informed by the president of the union that there are very few concerns and they're all like small, minor, solvable things, and that we're not seeing the kind of frustration and complaints that were coming most direct to the changes with Common Core and all this stuff that was coming along the time. So I don't have any, like I said, I can't tell you 17%. What I can tell you is we've been working in partnership with LTA leadership and the teachers through an enormous number of different vehicles, including additional professional development, to address what they brought forward in October of 2015.
Okay, so just to follow up to that, can you speak to retention? Like, are we going to see a huge turnover, do you think, again, as far as like
Well,
teachers leaving the
when you
district?
say again, that was never true in the first place.
Okay,
So
well-
the data's been presented publicly a number of times. So usually the district loses a percentage of students, or I'm sorry, teachers. And with a young teacher base, that number's higher because young people are less sedentary because they have more freedom, they don't have kids and married and all that. So what we've seen over the last 3 years is a trend downward of teachers that are leaving the district. That is a fact. It's proven in data. It's been presented publicly. But we also are noticing that we are hiring, I think we did the data, it's 75% of all of our new teachers are in their first 3 years of teaching, many of whom have no teaching experience or are their first year of teaching. So to have retention rates going down when you're hiring kids, completely inexperienced people, that's actually a very good piece of data. You're going to get retirements. You're going to get people that are moving on to greener pastures. There are going to be some people that don't like what the district's doing and want to go someplace else. That's just a fact in every district. But our data is showing that it's a downward trend and has been for the last 3 years.
Point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
Is this on?
Yes.
You said having retention rates go down, and I think you
Oh,
meant
I
having
mean,
turnover rates
yes, correct,
go down.
correct.
Retention rates
Yes.
go up.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
Thanks for touching on those. Just
73% of our teachers are leaving. No, I'm just joking.
That would be bad. So just to circle back as far as the math scores that we talked about a little bit earlier, I heard some concerns from parents and teachers that are we looking towards adopting a permanent or more permanent math curriculum anytime in the near future? I know that we have Engage New York right now, which I understand is just sort of a temporary fix.
Well, here's the answer. We're going through an math adoption process that it mirrors what we did with the ELA, ELD adoption. There's a committee of teachers that are working on that. Engage New York, or Eureka, is a curriculum. We presently have units of study in math based on Engage New York, Eureka, that are being used in our classrooms. Recommendations are being made by that committee about an adoption. There are two limitations. Number one is how long of a pilot program do we want to run? The two options are to adopt or not adopt something in a short pilot window, which would be this spring, or to extend it out over next year. The other limitation, which is more concerning to me, which is that there's not a lot of highly regarded aligned Common Core math programs out there, and we keep researching it. So as time passes, we're hoping if there's going to be a competitor for Engage New York, Eureka, then we want something to be able to compare it to that's of quality. So I'm not saying that the curriculum companies aren't creating quality products, but in the research that I've been shown, they're not always considered aligned by the people who are testing them. So in terms of a curriculum for math, we're presently using one. They're based on units of study which have brought the curriculum plus additional resources, and that's what we're using now. If the pilot extends, and I know there's a recommendation coming forward that that's probably the likelihood, then there will be other math materials going out in a pilot, but it just comes down to how long of a pilot do you want to run. And my guess is it'll be a longer pilot.
I guess my concern as a parent is that we see, we had the RCD units of study and then, an adjustment from Common Core to that and to now Engage New York. And maybe I represent a, large sample with our little family that I see, a variety of ages with the curriculum. And it just seems that, constant change or frequent change, I should say, lends itself to just holes and gaps in learning. And
Correct.
If we move towards something that will be a little longer term, that will fix that problem.
So let me say, I wasn't clear in my communication. So I agree. And so Engage New York, Eureka is a viable curriculum that could be used. And if that were to be the choice, then it would be consistent because it would stay. What we haven't had the opportunity to do is to pilot it against other curriculum. And so where we're at is taking a look at other curriculum through the adoption process, and that's going to take time. So either we'll do a small pilot in the spring, which I doubt will be the direction. I predict that we're going to have an extended pilot into next year. So
We're looking at adopting closer to the end of next school year?
that's highly likely. But I want to also address that if we end up going with the thing we have, then we're not changing it. But we didn't create the change. We're addressing the change as we go. And teachers, parents, students, superintendents are frustrated with the reality that doing ELA adoption and doing a math adoption and a next generation science standards and all the other stuff coming down the pike at one time has created this frustration. So happy to hear the feedback.
All right. I am curious about the required, as we move towards a one-to-one technology in all grade levels, I know that, or I hear that there's, required class time for technology. I'm curious what those recommendations are from the district. And I'm also wondering about the data to show, primarily my concern is with the younger grades. I've recently read something from the American Academy of Pediatrics about limiting screen time and technology use. And so I'm just wondering, I've taught preschool for 11 years, and tactile, hands-on learning is super important in those younger grades. And so I'm wondering what data we're looking at and how it's applying to those younger grades implementing technology.
So if you notice on the rollout of one-to-one, the younger grades are the slowest to roll out because we're trying to really figure that out. I think if you were to walk classrooms across the district, and the principals can speak to this, it's not like they're sitting on the screen all day long. It's a tool that's in the classroom available. The new curriculum has technology components. I observed a first grade class using a Surface and the LCD projector and different things. So the tactile stuff is still happening. All the things you would expect in a traditional preschool, kindergarten, TK class are happening. It's just that they also have access to computers for small group instruction centers and other things. So I've heard the screen time conversation, but I think if people feel that the screen time is we're throwing kids in a chair and putting a computer in front of them and having them stare at it all day, that's a misnomer. I think people need to go and take a look of what's going on, and you'll see a multifaceted set of instructional strategies happening in the classrooms, especially with the little ones.
Am I maybe missing a piece? So can you talk about the Compass learning requirements? Is there a set number of Compass learning minutes required per grade level?
That's kind of old news. That's an old conversation. Compass was brought in because the governor gave us money to buy technology, so we bought computers. Having experience buying a bunch of computers and then giving them to people and not having an expectation for use, you often get dust collection. So Compass's original purpose was to give a strategic support tied to using the computers that were new. But that was 3 years ago. Compass is part of units that people can use, but the mandates that were of the past are not necessary. They're part of units where people have to use them, but it's not like it was in the past. That's a pretty old concern.
Okay. So there's not, as of today, a required amount of minutes, say, that kindergarten has to be.
Heather, can you, no, okay, no.
Have you heard that from the teaching community recently that there was a required number of hours?
No, I had a son last year that had, I think, required for homework a certain number. This year I have not.
A teacher could choose to do that, but it was, okay, so again, imagine if you spent $800,000 on computers and gave them to a bunch of well-intended teachers with no direction and they weren't used. Compass was an intentional act to get them to use the computers in the classroom. So that was a great plan. In execution and in real life, it didn't go as well as we had intended, and it created a frustration for everyone because we were trying to get people to use them and use the tool. Again, that's old history. If a teacher wants to assign it as a homework thing, that's perfectly within the purview of a teacher's right to do so, but there's nothing coming from the district as an across-the-board mandate of time and the like it was at the beginning.
When we're looking A little bit further down on our 21st century skills.
So I have a follow-on question. Which is a teacher, there also isn't a district mandated maximum number of minutes.
Correct.
So if a teacher says you're going to be on it for an hour a day, they could do that.
I don't think so, because the core curriculum is based on the new adoption, and it wouldn't fit. One of the principals, I mean, if that could technically happen over a short period of time until a principal figured it out and they'd say, "Now we got to back that down."
I'm not saying it's a workable or a good idea. I'm saying that the district is not
Correct.
seeking to make
Correct.
minimums or maximums. That we are relying on the teachers to use their professional judgment in the circumstance and say this is appropriate given the facts and circumstances of the classroom.
Correct. And if someone were to be doing that, there would be counseling and advising that would help them understand the curriculum there's more to it than that.
I probably shouldn't use the hour.
I know, I get you.
Okay, sorry, I'm almost done. I just wanted to touch on our middle school preparation. I'm so happy to see, and I know guys have worked really hard to help this happen, to see the D's and F's drastically, be reduced at the high school. But I do see kind of a gap, having sent one daughter from middle school to high school and preparing to send another. I feel like there's some gaps in our middle school in helping them to prepare academically for the high school. And so I'm wondering if you can just speak to that at all, or what.
In math in particular? Yeah, so I think this is a conundrum that the state has faced going back to 2000, solving the algebra, the question about algebra and when are kids old enough, and how do you accelerate kids that are there, give the mainstream kids what they need and remediate the kids that don't need it. I can tell you that there is an annual concerted effort to find the answers to all those questions. What I can say is for the kids that are there, they're getting opportunities to accelerate. There is a number of kids who have the intelligence but have some gaps in their fundamental skills. And I think that we're doing a better job of addressing that with higher quality teaching strategies. And I think at least this transition to Common Core, I think what we're using now is better than what we had in the last year or so. But the district score on the CSTs back in the old system for algebra was much lower than the rest of the scores in math and ELA. It was like 42, 45% advanced and proficient. So it's been a long-standing seeming problem to solve. What I know they're doing at the high school is a very creative scheduling in terms of giving kids more time to kind of catch up skill sets and over a 2-year period take a 1-year math class, which I think will benefit a certain student, your middle of the road average great kid. So we struggle, I think, also finding a consistent cadre of high quality math teachers, especially at the higher levels. That's another issue that all districts face. I think we have some efforts there that I think will pay off over time, but they're all tied together. So I can't draw you a magic schedule of 6th, 7th, 8th grade sequence that'll perfectly set a kid up. I think the data at the high school, in particular with 9th graders, shows that as the kids transition into the high school, that the high-end kids are doing great, and I think we're remediating the low-end kids, but I think that's that group right in the middle. That's the group that the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade program, as it strengthens and solidifies and gets consistent, will help the most. So it's a long-term project. There is no short-term answer. And in my years of being an administrator, I haven't seen anybody be able to solve it in the long run. So it's not the greatest answer, but I think it's just a work in progress, and we have to constantly be on it.
Okay. Just also touching on middle school, not in math in particular, but I'm banking on the fact that this is an input meeting, so I'm going to give some input. I have some concerns just overall about the offerings at the middle school level. The electives and extra opportunities seem to vary incredibly widely from school to school, and the quality of instruction in those particular classes classes. I know my own son was enrolled in a public speaking course that now has turned into an art course. And anyway, there just seems a little loose, and I think having a more comprehensive, focused program for those middle schoolers would be advantageous, in my opinion. And then just lastly, on the extracurricular activities, it seems like we talked a lot about the science will get, math will get. Those all seem to be academic extracurricular activities. And I know with the passing of Measure L and the theater coming shortly, I would really like to see our offerings for visual and performing arts really increase. Right now we only have one choir at the high school. It's being taught by a trained band teacher. And I think that would just really be an area that I personally would like to see a focus on. I know some of our elementary schools have, performing arts through a club or through the parent-teacher organization, but I also feel like, providing more middle school opportunities in that arena would really be helpful. I know we have a lot of sports programs at the high school. I know my own child in particular has been very interested in soccer and has a plan to try and bring that to the middle school, but when he's addressed it with the site administration, it looks like the goal is to try and provide a wrestling team, which hasn't quite materialized either yet. So I just feel like not putting the focus 100% on the academic extracurriculars, but also having opportunities for well-rounded students. And that's all I have.
That was an excellent summation.
Can I just throw one thing out there? We do have.
As long as you're talking to the microphone.
We all know that. We do, I think most of us have a lot of visual and performing arts happening, plays and that sort of thing. It just hasn't been quantified for the spreadsheet. So I don't know if it's something.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is we added music teachers. Our ultimate goal is through the expansion of PE and music teachers to find some way to give common planning time for teachers, but we're 3 years trying to solve that puzzle and we haven't figured it out. We want feeder programs in the academics, athletic, and then just the other stuff that people do in the arts into the high school. And that is going to grow as we grow, but you get the singleton classes, and in small district that creates the problem. So that's why you have a band teacher teaching choir, is because there's not enough humans yet. But we keep growing, and that solves a lot of the problems. But we want that theater filled with all kinds of good stuff too. Any other questions? Excellent questions. Ms. Buzatil, any questions? Just wanted to say your name because I didn't hear it earlier tonight. Oh, you wanted to tell me? Yeah.
Thank you all for all the questions, and thank you, Dr. Nicholas. So I'm going to quickly go over the new template. Like the previous template, this new template also has some of the similar parts, which is stakeholder engagement, annual update, the goals, and then also the unduplicated student population piece. The beginning part of the template, which is the first page, this is all brand new that did not exist in the previous template, which is more like a summary of the students that we are serving and the community that we are serving, and then what will be the major focus, major features of the template, RLCAP, and then what will be the progress, which is going towards the second page right here. Going to progress we are making, and then also the needs based on the data and performance, and then the budget piece. So this is just the first 2 pages in your template. As you're seeing up there, are the new information in the new template that was not there in the past. And rest of the template that you have, which is the annual update, stakeholder engagement, and then the goals and actions, are very similar to previous years. The layout is a little different. The way it's written a little different. Another major difference is in the new template that in the goals actions sheet, which is this page right here, if you look at the years, in the previous template it was the years on separate pages, and then also the years actually, we took 1 year off and added a new year every year we did that. In this, according to this template, we will continue working on the same years for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, which will be in 2019-20, we will write the LCAP for next 3 years. So that is the major difference, that we wouldn't be just adding a year every year. I'm going to quickly walk you through a sample for our district for the first part, which is the summary. As you can see, the first part, which is the summary, the new portion, the first part, it says, briefly describe these students in the community and how we serve them. This is just a description. I do want to bring your attention to the number of students and number of staff, approximately 205 teachers and 4,600 students. I mean, our student growth is going up every single day. And then also the breakdown of the ethnicities, as you could see, 7% African American, 43% Asian, 19% Hispanic, 23% white, 6% with multiple, and 2% other ethnicities. And then 14% students who are with our free and reduced lunch. And then 23% unduplicated pupil population. What that means is, unduplicated means that EL, low income, and then foster youth students, that's what those are counted for. But if a student is, let's say, EL and low income, they only get counted once. That's why it's called unduplicated. So our percentage is 23%, pretty small as compared to typical districts. And then the next one, which was what will be the features of our LCAP, as Dr. Nicholas, for our district, our features are our work areas, our main focus areas, which is our goals, the 5 goals, as Dr. Nicholas has already explained. And then the next portion, which is the greatest progress, is basically this data that is, I showed it to you previously, and the data sheet is written in a sentence form comparing if the data went up or down. And then if it went up, there is a progress, even if it went up by 1%. And then the next one, which is the greatest need, if the data went down in an area, such as AMAO2s, they went down. Again, I do want to point out that in the LCAP, especially with the supplemental funding, the focus in the LCAP requirements from the state is with these areas specifically focus on low-income students, EL students, and also foster youth for the unduplicated population. So you're going to notice that most of the data that we're talking in here specifically is for those subgroups. And then finally, the performance gaps, talking about the student groups, subgroups that their performance indicators on CASP are 2 or more level lower as compared to the overall growth in CASP for ELA and math. And that's what the performance gaps are addressing. Again, this is a draft. This is not a final document. It's just a sample. We will be revising it, working on it, and then bringing a comprehensive entire LCAP to you, first draft in our next meeting in March. Any questions on the summary and the template?
Yes, you explained what it was, but could you just tell me or tell us, what does AMAO stand for actually?
You got me on that one. I think it's annual measurable achievement objective.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's basically the number of students we redesignate from EL to fluent English, into fluent English. That's the actual measure.
Yeah, you explained what it was.
Correct.
I just couldn't remember what the
Yes. There's so many different acronyms in education. Annual measure achievement objectives.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
So we'll have another meeting in a couple of months when the draft is up on March 27th and May 24th at 6:30, same place, to review that. First we'll review the draft, and then we'll have the approval meeting, and then that'll go to the board in the normal cycle in June. Thank you. Have a nice evening.